Hi guys, James at Goddard Radio Moscow Beer and Metal Reviews again for you today with another beer review. I'm still reporting to you from Auckland in New Zealand. However, for this beer review we're actually going to go back over to Australia, and this was one of the beers that I brought over with me from my kind of short stay in Queensland. So today we are going to go to Burleigh Brewing and have a taste of their Duke All Malt Helles beer, and this is meant to be quite a nice one. As you'll know if you've watched my channel before, I really enjoy a German Helles beer, so I'm quite interested to try this one today. And this is actually only the second beer that I've reviewed for you from Queensland. The other one of course was the kind of famous 4X, and when I was in Brisbane I stayed just up from the brewery, which is down in Milton. But anyway, Burleigh Brewing are probably the most famous craft beer manufacturer in Queensland, actually, probably the most widely available one. But as always with my reviews, I'll take you through a very short history of the brewery. It is very short, just fast forward to the tasting if you want to get right there. The brewery website, as always, is in the video description for you below. So, Burleigh Brewing Company is located in the southern part of the Gold Coast in Queensland, and it was founded in 2006 by Peta and Brennan Fielding, and they brewed their first beers in May of 2007, and then they released them in the August. So Fielding had a good brewing pedigree, having previously worked for Moonbrew Hawaii in Waikiki over in Hawaii in the States obviously, and he'd also worked at the Oxford Brewing Company in Brisbane, and he also aided in the establishment of Moo Brew in Hobart down in Tasmania as well. So the brewhouse sells takeaway beers and has a nice little venue with food and live music as well. As I say, it's just in Burleigh Heads, which obviously is where the brewery takes its name from, and that's in the southern part of the Gold Coast. I think you're talking somewhere between 100 and 150 k's down to the south of Brisbane there. It takes you about an hour and a half to drive down there from the city. So as I say, the brewery has a very nice little venue that you can go and visit, and you just get the tram down from the likes of Surfers Paradise and things like that, and that'll take you right there. So that's a very kind of short and brief history of the brewery, if you like. A couple of the beers you'll get from these guys: you'll get this guy, which is the Duke Helles obviously. You get the Duke Premium Lager, Big Head, which has a little alien on the artwork there. It's quite a nice little interesting one there. You get the 28 Pale Ale, which they market as a 70s style Pale Ale, meant to be a very nice beer. You get Hef, My Wife's Bitter, which is one of my viewers, John Shepherd. That's one of his favourite beers, he tells me, in Australia. And you also get the Fig Jam IPA, which is meant to be a really interesting one. So anyway, without further ado, that's you heard enough about the brewery. Let's get on to the tasting of this guy. I'll just bring up the camera and let you have a little look at the artwork on this one. It's quite nicely and kind of classically German presented, if you like. It says on the back, Duke is brewed exclusively for locals, but it takes its inspiration from Europe, the spiritual home of craft beer. The Germans would be proud of this Helles style mid-strength. Shame they can't have any. Find out why at dukebeer.com.au, and it has the address here written on the bottom: Harley Drive, Burleigh Heads, Queensland, and that is, as I said, just to the south of Gold Coast, just to the north of the airport actually, where I flew out to Auckland from. And this guy, if I remember right, it's 3.5% alcohol content. I did have a little note on the hops if I can find it there, but I think it just has a few different Hallertau hops and things like that, and it will have some Australian hops too, because they like to do that. So it's 3.5%, and it's a Dortmunder Helles style, which I'm a bit surprised at that, because it says it's all malt, but usually a Dortmunder Helles is a bit more hoppy, so maybe the people on like Rate Beer and Beer Advocate have that wrong, and it's more of a Munich Helles. As you'll have seen with my German reviews that I've done, the Munich Helles tends to have a bit more of a what do you call it, a kind of malty character to it. So that's the bottle cap on this one. I'll be keeping that one. I made a bit of a mess of opening it. Without further ado, let's get on with the tasting here. So it definitely looks like a Helles. You've got that typical kind of pale golden straw colour. I'm using a kind of half-litre tanker, which is why it doesn't quite fill up to the top there, because this is the only guy I had. But as you can see, it pours a nice kind of slightly hazy pale golden straw colour. If I put my fingers behind it, you can just see the haze there. This is exactly the kind of thing you want from a Helles beer. It has just under a finger of frothy white head, and there is actually quite a big bit of carbonation in there. There's a few little sediment particles just floating around, which is always good as well. You always want that in a Helles, and especially if it's a malt Helles, you want that to kind of give it a bit of the bready character. But it does smell quite nice as well. You can smell the nice kind of sweet malty character to it. So in the aroma, you definitely have a kind of big, definitely a big kind of sweet bready malt in there. There's maybe a teeny little bit of wheat in there, but it's mainly a kind of nice biscuity and bready malt, which is what you expect from a Helles beer, a Munich Helles beer I should say. From the Dortmunder Helles you expect a bit more of the kind of grassy and aromatic hoppy character. But there's a sweet bit of yeastiness in there coming out too, and perhaps a little bit of that kind of cereal spice as well. But there is actually, when you take it a bit further in, there is definitely a little bit of that kind of citrusy, grassy, slightly aromatic kind of freshness that you expect from the hops. But it has all the elements in the aroma that you would expect of the German Helles style beer. So without further ado, this is the Duke Helles from Burleigh Brewing Company in Burleigh Heads, Queensland, just to the south of Gold Coast. Cheers. It is actually very mild. It's a very mild Helles, and I can see, as I've said with quite a few Australian beers, there is a little bit, they usually get quite a bit of carbonation in this one, in these beers, because they like them to be nice and refreshing for the heat, but this guy is a little bit flatter than that actually. And that's usually how the Germans like them. They don't like them too carbonated. But yeah, it's got a nice kind of sweet and bready malt character coming out in this one. There is a little hint of earthiness in it as well, I would say. But yeah, in the middle of the tongue you're getting that nice kind of sweet, bready and biscuity malt flavour. Just a teeny little bit of caramel that gives you more of that biscuity malt feel. But yeah, there's a definite cereal presence in this one, and that gives it just, it's almost like a teeny little bit of spice character, and you get that just in the middle of the tongue, but around the edges you are getting just a little bit of that grassy hop character. It's not very kind of sharp as you would expect from a citrusy hop or an aromatic one. It doesn't have that particular dryness to it. The kind of dryness and spiciness is definitely coming from the sort of cereal element to the hops, in my opinion. Yeah, I'd stick with that. It definitely is more of a malty beer, this one, and you are getting that nice kind of bready element that you expect from the Helles. I don't know why Rate Beer and Beer Advocate say it's a Dortmunder Helles. This one definitely is more, in my opinion, it's definitely more of a Munich Helles with that kind of bready element. But that said, there is a little bit of freshness just around the edge of the tongue, and you do get the citrusy and grassy one. This is maybe one that could perhaps hit the middle ground between these kind of two different beer styles, but it's quite nice and quite refreshing. Overall, I would say the mouthfeel, it's definitely very light bodied, very smooth, very easy drinking. It's unusually smooth actually for an Australian beer. Usually they're a good bit more carbonated, but it's easy drinking and it's only slightly bitter as well. In the aftertaste you have that nice kind of cereal bready malt flavour, and you do get just a little bit of the citrusy and the grassy character. So all in all, I'd say it's something that kind of goes between these two, the kind of Dortmund and Munich style Helles beer, and it's an interesting kind of Australian take on these beers. And Australian craft beer, as I say, is really good, so it's actually nice to review my actual very first Queensland craft beer. Sorry, I'm struggling for the words there. So this has been a nice one to review for you for my first Queensland craft beer review. 4X of course isn't really a craft beer, but anyway, so I hope you've enjoyed my review of this beer. I'm sorry there haven't been many videos for a little while. The sound card in my laptop's been knackered, so I've been using my friend's laptop while here in Auckland. But I hope you've enjoyed this review. Please let me know in the comments section your own thoughts on this one below. Queenslanders, please let me know some other breweries to check out if I do actually have time to go back to Queensland. Thanks for watching, and please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. I hope you're enjoying the series, and I will be back soon with more reviews. Cheers.